More and more of the world's best players are putting this club in their bag, and I'm going to put it to the test off the tee, the fairway, the rough, and even around the greens to show you why you should consider putting this unorthodox club in your bag. So the club we're going to be talking about in this video is the 9-wood. Now, Ping have kindly supplied us with the G430 Max 9-wood, and before we get into any of the performance, I want to just talk about how good this thing looks behind the ball. Now, for those who lack confidence when playing into greens from distance and would lack confidence when striking long irons, that confidence will surge when they put this 9-wood behind the ball. It's a much larger footprint than the 4-iron or even the hybrid equivalent, and that alone will inspire confidence, but the fact it's got a shallow face and a wide body really makes it look as though you can get under the ball and produce a really high towering ball flight coming into greens. Now, those who don't struggle with confidence may like the look of the 4-iron or the hybrid equivalent, but some of the world's best have actually put the 9-wood in play, notably Tommy Fleetwood at the Players' Championship last year. So that is just to prove that this club, it's not just for high handicappers or those who struggle from distance. It's all about confidence. It's all about what makes you feel as though you can execute the right shot from distance. Now, we find ourselves here in a really common situation on the golf course. We've got a long approach shot into a par 4. Now, this happens to be about 215 yards, which is exactly where I would normally hit a 4-iron from. And there are benefits to having a long iron in the bag. A more confident ball striker would prefer to use a 4-iron perhaps to lower the flight or control the flight a bit better, as well as work it into certain pin positions. Now, I'm going to hit one here. We've got quite a tight lie off a downslope, so let's see how that ball flight goes. Well, it's turning back in nicely, and it's pitched just on the right hand side of the green there, and now it's scuttled forward about 5 or 6 yards, which I have to say I was half expecting coming off this lie, but also just using a long iron in general. Now, I'm expecting to see a much different ball flight if I was to use a 9-wood, so let's give that a go. We're going to put it down in a very similar lie, so a good lie, but quite tight off this fairway off a downslope. Now, the reason why this 9-wood would be so much more beneficial for, I believe, most golfers, honestly, is the fact that it's got a much wider sole. We've got a tungsten weight at the back, which lowers and pulls the centre of gravity back, increasing the forgiveness. Now, the ball speed itself will also be much hotter than on the iron equivalent. They are the same loft, 24 degrees, but thanks to that larger footprint head and more springy face, we're likely to see a much higher, more energetic ball flight, which will have the ball coming in at a much steeper descent angle. Let's hit one. Wow, the difference was there to see. I mean, that has come down almost like it was a 9-iron coming into that green. It's held the green, gone to about 20 foot, landed very softly and rode the wind perfectly, exactly how I would like. If you're someone who plays on firmer golf courses and wants more launch coming into those greens from distance, the 9-wood is your best bet. Now, as you can see from the data, the 4-iron and 9-wood produced very similar numbers when it comes to carry and ball speed, and they are on completely opposite ends of the spectrum. The 9-wood is producing a much higher ball flight with more spin, whereas the 4-iron is producing slower ball speeds with a flatter ball flight. Now, if we were to get a hybrid in a closer loft, then I would expect to see this sit exactly in the middle, but I would definitely urge more golfers to go towards the higher end of the spectrum, go more towards a 9-wood or a hybrid rather than the 4-iron. There's so much more forgiveness and versatility from this club. So that's enough of the data. Let's get the 9-wood onto the course, put it in a few different situations and see how it performs. Okay, so I'm here at the beautiful Santo de Serra Golf Club in Madeira, and as you can see ahead of me, I am faced with a fairly simple bump and run chip shot. Now, most golfers opt for a wedge, a lofted wedge at that, or maybe the less confident players would opt for a putter, but rarely would anyone opt for a metalwood. Well, that was the same for me until I put this 9-wood in play. Now, I'm someone who's really struggled with my chipping as of late. I'm duffing the ball a lot, I am thinning the ball also, but where this club excels is the fact that it's got such a wide sole. There is so much margin for error when it comes to using this club around the green. It must be said, it's not great when a bunker is in front of you and between yourself and the green, but on shots like this where there's nothing in play, I can simply bump this forward and get it running along the green. Now, the titanium face does take a bit of use to, it does come off quite hot, and so the few times you use it, it may go a long way past the pin, but once you get used to it, you'll notice just how useful the 9-wood becomes around the green. Now also, the stroke itself is much shorter when using a 9-wood, so far less can go wrong. Let's hit one and see how we get on. So as you can see, it popped up really nicely. It has gone a little far, and that does take a bit of getting used to, but there's far more margin for error when using a 9-wood round the green. When there's no obstacles in the way and you've got a simple bump and run shot, the 9-wood is definitely something you should choose. Now, the other situation where this club may come in handy is if you're an erratic driver of the golf ball, like myself. I've missed the fairway here. I'm in quite a juicy lie, where if I was to use a long iron, the hosel may get wrapped up in the rough, snaggy, and end up pulling one left. But thanks to the wide sole, low center of gravity, and plenty of loft on this face, I should be able to get underneath it, pop it up, and produce a really high ball flight. Now, one of the first things when I look down at this club when it is in the rough is how much more confidence this gives me than when I'm using a long iron. The rounded leading edge really makes me feel as if I can kind of get under the ball and really give it that loft that it's got on the club head already. A long iron looks quite flat, looks as if it's going to come out low anyway, and so when it's out the rough, it is even harder to execute the shot you're looking for. I'm going to give one a go here, see if we can get it up, riding the wind and coming in softly into this green. Well, as you can probably tell from the audio alone, that came out absolutely flush. I'm really happy with that, and it's a shot that I don't think personally I could have executed with a long iron. So there you have it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video on what performance is on offer from a 9-wood and why you should potentially consider putting one of these in your bag. Me personally, I really enjoyed using it off the deck as well as into really long par 3s. I love seeing that high towering ball flight that this club offers, and I've noticed so much more forgiveness on strike when it comes to playing from distance over my 4-iron. There's clearly a lot of versatility on offer with this club, and it also looks great behind the ball, so there's no wonder why plenty of the world's best are putting this club in play, and why I think many golfers, especially higher handicappers looking for more forgiveness, should too.